Hello, everyone. I can hear myself, so I assume you can hear me. Raise your hand if you can hear me. I'm taking a note from Jess's book. And raise your other hand. Okay, that's starting to work. We're going to get started here with the Wards 2 and 3 NPA meeting. Thank you all for coming. Before I get into the official agenda, I just want to take a second to thank our lovely musicians in the back. Can we give them all a round of applause? Emma and Maeve did a great job. And I'd also like to thank Anna for making it possible for them to be here today. So thank you for the three of you. It's been amazing. All right, everyone can reshuffle, and I promise you can sit in this middle row. I do not bite. I will probably stay behind this table, so you don't need to be scared of me. So as everyone is settling in, our first step is to adopt the agenda. So are there any oppositions to adopting the agenda? The agenda is at every table. There is a printed version in the little pile that is at your table. There is also a QR code that takes you to digital versions of all of the things that we will be talking about today, including the agenda. So I do not see any opposition, so we will consider the agenda adopted for today. So just a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today. This will be a fun technical meeting. We are talking about bylaws today and some resolutions, as well as funding. So I appreciate everyone for being here. There will also be some points today that are different between Wards 2 and Wards 3, which I will be highlighting. Just going to pause. All right, so we have a smaller group today. I think it would be a great opportunity to quickly go around and introduce ourselves. It's great. I see a lot of familiar faces, and I see a lot of new faces. So I will start. My name is Lauren. I am a Ward 2 resident on North Ave. I'm your facilitator, and I am on the Ward 2 steering committee. And I'm going to get a mic and pass. You want to start? Molly, you can go next.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Molly Flanagan. I live on Fountain Street. I'm in Ward 2, and I'm also on the steering committee.
Hi, everyone. I'm Posca. I work with CEDO as the NPA Public Engagement Specialist, so I'm here at all the meetings, and I also am a Ward 2 resident on Park Street.
Hey, I'm Roxanne Muse. I live on Pitkin Street in Ward 2. I'm on the steering committee, and I'm taking notes tonight.
I am Sharon Webster. I live at 169 Park Street.
Go ahead. I'm Jim.
I'm Dave Kavanaugh. I live with this lovely lady on Park Street, and I'm in Ward 2, used to be Ward 3.
I'm Travis. I live on King Street in Ward 3.
Hi everyone, I'm Jazz. I live on Grant Street, which I believe is Ward 3. It's my first one, so lovely to meet everyone.
Hi there, my name is Solveig Overby. I live on Walnut Street in Ward 2.
Hi, I'm Kurt McCormick. I live in Ward 2, right on the corner of North Winooski and Decatur Street.
Hi, I'm Jeannie. I'm in the new Ward 2. And I live on the corner of Cedar and Rose.
Hi, Mila Grant, and I live on Crowley Street in the new Ward 2, and I have to confess I'm a little bitter about it. Also your Central District City Councilor. Hey.
Richard Hilliard. I'm visiting from touring, really, from Ward 1, a long-time member of the Ward 1 NPA.
I'm Janet, and I actually live in Ward 1, but I've been coming to this NPA for 40 years, something like that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Faulkner. I live on Decatur Street, and I'm a Ward 2 steering committee member.
Hey, I'm Philip. I live on Elmwood Ave, south of North, I forget which one that means.
Hi, I'm Polly Vanderputten. I live on Pitkin Street in what we're now calling the new Ward 2.
Hi, my name is Amy. I live on Johnson Street, right around the corner. I am still in Ward 3, and I'm also on the steering committee.
I'm Gene Bergman. I live on St. Louis Street in the traditional Ward 2. I am your city councilor for Ward 2 for all of you who have gotten into my ward. And please know I did try very, very hard, unsuccessfully, to keep the traditional Ward 3 people in Ward 3 because that was important, but I failed. It's a lesson I keep learning, but that's part of what we do.
I'm Mike Chamness. I'm on Elmwood, and I just found out I'm in Ward 3.
Hi, I'm Erica Spiegel. This is Jay. We live on Blodgett Street. I think we're in the new Ward 2. Ward 2. All I know is I have to walk farther to vote now.
Hi, I'm Christopher Aaron Felker. I live in Ward 3.
I'm Joe Kane. I live on North Ave in Ward 3.
Are you running for something?
Yeah, Christopher is as well, I think. Yeah, we're both running for city council for Ward 3. I think there's one other person who's also running who I think is not here tonight. I'm the progressive nominee. Yeah, Christopher is the Republican nominee.
I'm good.
Okay. So I'm Charlie G, and I live on Rose Street, almost right across the street. Thank you.
My name is Andrew. I live in Ward 3 on Elmwood Ave.
Hi, I'm Creed. I live in Ward 2 on North Avenue.
All right, thank you, everyone. I do thank you for the introductions. I hope you met someone new that might be a neighbor. Kind of going off of this and some of the comments, I do want to point out that wards have changed, and they will be changed for the election that is happening on March 5th, which is very soon. So please be sure to check out what your polling location is before you go to vote, because you may have to walk further than you expected, or extra further if you go to the wrong place. You also should have received a postcard in the mail from the city clerk's office. It does have your polling location on it. It also has the important note that while you will automatically be mailed a ballot for the city election, you will not automatically be mailed a ballot for the presidential primary. So if you do need to vote by mail, or if you would like to vote by mail for the presidential primary, you will have to go onto the Vermont website to request that. It's very easy. I did it today. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that either now or after the meeting. Okay, great. So with that, let us get into public forum. So does anyone have anything that they would like to share in public forum? And just a note, please state your name and ward, and please keep it to 2 minutes maximum. Thank you. Just raise your hand if you are.
Hi, I'm Richard Hilliard. I live in Ward 1, but I work as a seasonal crossing guard in Ward 2 or Ward 3 at the corner of Elmwood, Intervale, and North Street. And I'm here with a question, really. The most difficult part of my job, or perhaps the most dangerous part, is dealing with helping new Americans who have no English and have little or no grasp of pedestrian crossings and the signaling system. And I wonder who I should contact, whether it's the school district or school board or city councillors, to find out what sort of orientation there is, if any, in the city. I'm sure there's some, and wonder whether some sort of instruction or direction could be included in that to help orientate that. Thank you.
Do any of our school commissioners or city councilors have, I see Gene has his hand up. Oh, Charlie's right there.
So Richard, there's a walk bike council and there is a New American Advisory Committee as well as a Trusted Community Voices. The combination of those three organizations should give you, along with maybe some other resources like through the schools themselves. You know, you're talking about integrated, well, sustainability and the arts. So, yeah, so, you know, the combination of that, those would be people. Local Motion is another one that very much interested in pedestrian safety. So a single source may not make it, but if you combine those, and I'd be happy to try to help with. I will try my best, yes.
I was going to respond to this as a school commissioner with an idea, but I'll wait. And while this is happening, so I'm the Ward 3 school commissioner right now. I've been representing Ward 3 for 4 years. I am running again, but this time I'll be running for Ward 2 because the districts have changed. And I brought my petition with me tonight. If you'd be willing to sign it and you are a Ward 2 resident, so that I can get my name on the ballot to run for school commissioner, that would be great. And also, Saja Almagali was the Ward 1, yes, representative, and she will now be running for Ward 3, which is where she's living now. And we also have Saja's petition here tonight, so if you could sign that if you live in Ward 3 specifically. And then the other commissioner we have is Jeannie Waltz, who represents the district, both Wards 2 and 3. So I just wanted to say that we do have multilingual liaisons in the school district, and an email to Superintendent Tom Flanagan and Victor Prusak, who does the community coordination and could get in touch with multilingual liaisons, might be helpful. It sounds like something that every school could benefit from because we have so many students walking to our schools. So I think your question could go far beyond just the intersection you're dealing with, and it's a great question. So thank you.
I have students going to at least 6 different schools going through that intersection, which is a difficult one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Any other public forum? Online? There is one online. Wait.
Hey there.
Any other public forum? All right. Thank you, everyone. So the next thing on our agenda is we have 20 minutes, which will be split evenly between our school commissioners and our city councilors. I forget who I told to go first. I think the school commissioner. I see Jeannie is up, so I'm going to assume I told the school commissioners first. So Jeannie and Polly, if you want to come on up. And we're going to do a 5-minute update and then 5 minutes for questions for each set of our elected officials. We'll share. You can take mine. I don't need it for a little bit.
Well, I just wanted to let folks know that I put a one-pager about restorative practices in the district on each table, purely just because I would like for more people to have information about the mission around us adopting and instituting and implementing and furthering restorative practices in the district. So, mostly because there are going to be some cuts to the program because ESSER funds are no longer a part of the budget. Right now, every school had a restorative practices specialist, and that, unfortunately, is not going to be able to be sustainable moving forward. And do you want to talk about budget stuff? I saved, which is like seriously passing the buck, no pun intended.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
So we are in budget season. We are presenting a budget to City Council this coming Tuesday, and then we have a full school board meeting that night also for us to approve the budget. This year, there was an unfortunate kind of convergence of several factors that has caused the number to be high. The main thing is it's not so much Burlington school curriculum and that kind of thing, but the bond, which we approved in November of 2022. That is something we're going to need to now start paying for. That's the biggest chunk of the school BSD specific spending. Then there is the statewide common level of appraisal, which you see referred to as the CLA everywhere. And the number for that came in shockingly low, which means shockingly high percentage additions to what we need to put on the ballot. And the way I understand it, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, having had many meetings and listened to our wonderful executive director of finance, Nathan Lavery. He's fantastic at explaining it. But anyway, it's that we have a housing crisis, not enough homes, which is driving up the presumed sale price of those homes. And that is affecting what they perceive they can get in terms of their taxes. Am I explaining that somewhat correctly?
It's based on market value.
That's it.
And this is a statewide equitable approach, as in if this town's real estate is worth this amount of money, what their house may be assessed at would not reflect that, right? It's that gap in between the assessment and what it actually would go for, on the market. So
I think this is super shocking because we just got reassessed in Burlington, and personally, my property taxes went up 150% in that reassessment a couple years ago, and to have this come down is like, what? It's not at all the number they were expecting either.
yeah, mine went up 200%, yeah. But unfortunately, the market has actually grown that much in this time. I don't know if anybody saw on Washington Street, 2-bedroom house sold for over $600,000. Yes, it was fully renovated. Looks great. Happy for the new owners. But yeah, that's actually happening. But with that said, that means that the rate in which we are being taxed, or the rate in which we have to factor in and ask, is a lot higher than we even thought was going to be since December 1st. So December 1st, we get a letter from the state basically giving us a projection, and the CLA number only just came in, a final number. There were 4 go-throughs. I don't know if you knew that. This basically is the final, though. Yeah, it's about twice as much as even what we knew of as far as planning since December. So all of the work that the district leaders and, board members have been doing to come up with what is a way to educate our kids the best way possible with money available actually had to get reconfigured in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, so it's been, I don't know, I guess you could say it's just been kind of, I don't want to say depressing.
Well, another factor
But
in
it's
this
been hard.
too is the weighted per pupil formula, which was
good
Act
news.
127. And there's been a lot of buzz about that, and like, well, this is what's causing the problem and driving up the percentages. Neighboring communities have seen similar percentages. It's across the state. It's not just in Burlington. But Burlington is a city that was fighting hard to get this weighted per pupil formula changed because of the needs of the students we have here, and that it costs more to educate them than in a more homogeneous, more affluent community. So we're still working really hard to advocate with our legislators to keep Act 127 in place, Even though there are signs that they might be kind of faltering, because that's been one of the reasons given for the CLA going up, there are a lot of numbers. Please, we have a recording of our last meeting where Nathan explains all of this, Executive Director of Finance. I don't remember, it was late in the meeting. The meeting started at 6, and I want to say the budget discussion started at like 8. So if you wanted to fast forward to see his presentation, it's illuminating and really helpful.
Another big factor is the healthcare expenses. And this is another thing that was not necessarily planned for. As a state, we were encouraged to become one large bargaining unit. So all of the employees of every school in all of Vermont now get one type of insurance, one provider through the state. You would think banding together would give us an advantage when we went shopping for insurance. But what used to be something around 8% is now something like 16.8%.
Well, it went up 16% from what it had been, and one of those factors was delayed pandemic health visits. And now suddenly people are going to seek health care.
Yeah, so that's a huge jump. That's a huge cost, which is completely out of our hands. This is something we are mandated to pay. There's no negotiating that number.
Right. Salary for teachers and paras used to be negotiated along with health insurance by district. So this took that off the table for the negotiating team, which was great. It's negotiated by the Vermont NEA with the state in terms of our teachers, in terms of our school district. However, that means that we as a school district, when it comes to our budget, have no control over what those percentages are when they come to us. We're in a 3-year contract right now with the teachers, which is absolutely wonderful. We had been going year-to-year contracts, which is grueling, expensive, time-consuming, demoralizing. To be in a 3-year contract is great, but it means that we just don't really have any say in this, and we have to build it in. We have to pay for it.
Any questions? Yeah.
Those were 5 minutes.
Sorry.
They're all numbers.
Hi, so I'm a loud one. So bottom line, what are we talking about? Has the budget been, it's finalized but not voted on by you guys yet, right?
Let's say it's not necessarily final.
Okay, what are you looking at right now as like, if what you've got on paper now is what is approved by the school board and sent to the city council, what number increase are we looking at this year?
Do you mean like
The number of scenario 2, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking for, I'm hearing an increase is coming. I'm wondering what percentage of.
Yeah, that's what he wants to know. So at the board meeting last Tuesday, the superintendent presented 5 different scenarios. One was additions and reductions proposed before the CLA numbers came in on January 2nd. That was scenario 1. Scenario 2 is the one that he and his cabinet are recommending, and then there are scenarios 3, 4, and 5. I'm getting to the number, I promise.
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay, so the thing that is hard for me to wrap my head around, but I heard the same thing where I teach in South Burlington, and they're also feeling a lot of pain around these numbers right now, is that scenario number 2, with some additions and reductions, which includes the bond monies, the wages and benefits with the health insurance increase, the adding in the CLA appraisal number, is 13.97%. We had a budget number at more like 8%, and then with the CLA on January 2nd, that number jumped up to 13.97%.
So that's scenario 2, the one that Superintendent Flanagan is pushing, is 13.9% increase this year.
Yes, now, with scenario number 3, which has none of the additions that are included in scenario 2, and reductions, that number is still 13.97%. So what I heard at my faculty meeting yesterday in South Burlington was that if we changed our budget by $1 or by $4.4 million, which would be equal to cutting like 50 teachers, this is in South Burlington, the number in South Burlington wouldn't change. And there it's 18.36% or something. Here, that is the same thing that we have heard, and I don't fully understand it. I can't sit here right now and tell you why, if you have some additions and then no additions to the budget, the number is the same. Like, it makes no sense in my head, but it has something to do with that common level of appraisal, and that's the number right now.
Hey, I really appreciate you sharing that and expressing that you too find it confusing, because I feel like it's spinning my head, and so I'm grateful that I'm not the only one. Thank you for diving into this for me tonight. Appreciate it.
I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Any other questions? All right.
Can you before you leave, can you just say something that's going really well in the school system? Like something fun, or like the kids are doing, or the teachers?
Oh, we had at, thank you, Charlie. I get mired sometimes in that kind of responsibility, especially in budget season. Personally, it's the worst time of year for me as a school commissioner. It's really painful. But we had a group of students honored at our board meeting on Tuesday who were all presidential scholars. And the description of their work, they were artists and student leaders and multi-ethnic, some new Americans in the mix, was absolutely, completely uplifting and wonderful. All women, all young women. So that was a bright spot. It was really amazing to see them sit there confidently sharing in the celebration of what they had done.
I can say the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is working on drafting a policy to protect non-binary and transgender students, and that's, I think, awesome.
Thank you both. Thank you, Charlie, for asking that question. I love ending on a positive note. All right, next up is our city councilors. I see Councilor Grant and Councilor Bergman in the audience, and I know Councilor McGee is on the line. So same setup, 5 minutes for an update, and we'll have 5 minutes for questions.
Hello. All right, some rapid fire updates. In the past, I've talked about the importance of adopting a city meeting or commission or a committee in order to be more informed. I feel that there's a lot of misinformation floating around in the city right now, mainly because people aren't informed. So I will say that the Civic Clerk update, which is the software that the city uses to hold all this information, minutes, agendas, appropriate paperwork related to discussions, and the meetings themselves have recently had a fantastic update, so that when you go to the city's website and you click on calendar, you actually see a calendar now. Before you had to scroll up and down for the dates, but you actually have a calendar. You can go back to a specific month, see the list of meetings, click on the meeting, and you are now taken directly to the meeting. That's a huge, important change. Just makes it a lot easier and faster to get to information. There was a Front Porch Forum post that came out today from the Burlington Police Department containing a report with year-end information and statistics. It is no surprise that the dramatic increase in certain crimes that are directly related to our drug crisis continue right up to the end of the year. So that is an interesting read, so I recommend that everyone check that out. It's also available on the Police Commission meetings and the Public Safety Committee meetings of the City Council. Big shout out to the Burlington Fire Department for their community response team, which has continued to do fantastic work in helping to address the overdose crisis. Where they're getting to the end of the pilot it is definitely something we want to continue, so we'll be looking at how that's going to be funded. From January through October this year, the Burlington Fire Department answered 40% of the overdose calls on their own. And that's really important because people don't understand how involved they are in this aspect of care and community safety. I went to an interesting legislative meeting, zoomed in, and it was talking about bail and how we look at repeat offenders. And it was very, very interesting, and don't have enough time to go into the full thing, but I'll say that it is a goal, I think, of all of us on the council to be more involved in the legislative process, to make sure that the needs of Burlington are being heard and that our legislative representatives are on the same page with regards to what we need to help us deal with some of these issues in the city. So.
Thanks, Milo. Just on that point, in regard to the school tax that we just heard about, so we have income sensitivity. It's really, really helpful. There is a top house value of $400,000 that if your house is valued over $400,000, you don't get that income sensitivity. It's crazy. And we're about to we're gonna smash the glass that we've shattered during the last reappraisal. And although the legislative agenda for the mayor talks about dealing with the 18% rise in school costs, there's nothing mentioned in that. So I'm really happy that the council related to changing that cap. So one of the things that we did in this legislative breakfast was raise that as a specific thing that needs to happen, because otherwise, regardless of the income sensitivity, we are going to lose out in the city just because of the housing crisis. So it's an example of how the connections with the legislative process and the city need to be improved, and I think we're making some steps now. Let me just mention 2 items that are going to come before the council on Tuesday. One, it's actually going to be an executive session, but relates to the MOU with UVM. There are changes that are proposed to the MOU. I have not seen them. They're proposed by the administration. I don't know what they are. I weighed in after our last meeting at the end of the month to say this is not an acceptable MOU. It does not deal with the housing deficit. It doesn't commit them to really doing anything. It doesn't eliminate the triples situation. There's a host of issues. Whether we made some progress on that, I don't know. But you want to just keep focused on that, and I know you're going to be dealing with it later this evening. It is really important that the NPA weighs in on the impact of the underhousing, over-enrollment at UVM on housing for regular working people. And this is just essential for you to do and to constantly do, and to have the city council, not just us in the Old North End, who I think are carrying that banner, but the rest of the council and the administration know your position. So that's something that's coming up, and we're not supposed to vote on it on Monday, so that will mean it would be on the 29th. The second piece is that we'll have the first public hearing on police oversight charter change proposal that was developed by the Joint Committee on Police Oversight. It happened in the wake of the defeat of ballot item 7, and in shorthand, it is designed to empower the commission with powers that they are effectively using right now, but is not authorized by charter. It is in contradiction with charter. So there are some changes on that. There is a public hearing coming up on Monday. It's on Civic Clerk. In terms of the actual language, charters are laws, so it's written like a law. I'm sorry to everybody who's not a lawyer. And if you have specific questions about the proposal, Milo and I are happy to do that. I was on the committee as one of the co-chairs. But this hopefully will be voted on in March. We still have to go through this process, and there's some changes that I'm sure that will be made as a result of the public hearings, and that's actually the only way that you can make changes. So if you've got an interest in it, take a look at it, come speak at the public hearing so that we can make changes based on comments, because we can't make them just because we think something should be changed, and now they have to be directly related to public comments made at public hearing. There you go.
Thank you, councilors. Councilor McGee, do you have anything that you would like to add? Thank you, Councilor McGee. All right, I know.
Actually, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The OPC.
Sure, I can touch on that quickly. The House of Representatives voted today to send H72, the bill that would authorize both of those prevention centers, 2 pilot programs, one here in Burlington and another in Southern Vermont. That bill passed with 96 votes yesterday. 35 opposed, and likely will have a veto-proof majority in the House. So we'll wait to see what happens in the Senate, but this is a really important step forward. I'm working locally with service providers and others in the city to make sure that we don't have any other unnecessary burdens for a service provider that would look to open an overdose prevention center in the city. So really hopeful that's going to happen early this session so that we can get right to work on that and have the health department the RFP up for the money that will help fund this pilot program. So happy to answer questions that folks have on that either tonight or later.
Thank you. I just want to note that I'm going to try talking again. Okay. I know there's a lot of reference to different events. I did see that Roxanne is putting where she can the links in the agenda. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to look at the agenda. And if you have questions after that, feel free to reach out to the steering committee and we can get you in contact with your counselor. All right. Now that I said all that, any questions in the audience?
I am prepared. I had first I'd like to recognize our colleague, Mr. Hilliard from Ward 1. I've been over there, so thanks for coming to visit us tonight. While I was at Ward 1 last night, we heard from the city council candidates, and one of them mentioned that, depending on which councilor we spoke to, that we had somewhere between a $7 to $9 million projected budget set for the upcoming fiscal year. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts, like on what the best way is to try to close that gap and address that.
Personally, Joe, go ahead. You're on the finance board.
Recommendations for closing their budget gap. One of them is the 5 cents public safety tax increase. Another is cutting other expenses in the city. We will receive
That'd be great. Thank you.
I mean, for me, Chris, I haven't heard the presentation yet, and I have consistently called for alternatives to the property tax as a way to get other resources in. There is an impact fee study which is out there, which should raise some more funds from development. I don't know how much that is, and that hasn't come forward. That's something that I asked for like 2 years ago. There was this study that was presented at the Finance Board related to the undervaluation, so-called, or the inequality that's based on the low residential districts, the low density districts. That's something which is in a way tied to the neighborhood code and to development, that future development that would occur come the passage of such a missing middle, so to speak, zoning code and development that would result, according to that. We passed South End zoning last year. You don't have any development on that parking lot. So, you know, I mean, and you wouldn't expect that there would be such a turnaround. So those things are very long-term. I don't know, but I can just tell you, and we'll see. I try to be a very reasonable guy, but it's my position that austerity kills, that it is the bane of the human societies around the world, and kills healthcare systems, public transit. So everything that I can do to figure out a way to do it in that's based on the ability to pay on what I consider to be progressive taxation, I will be looking for.
I think also, I know that there's a review of fees throughout the city, such as the fees that are charged for various things at parks and for various programs that the city does, the fees to the public. That is definitely being examined. I hope the city, at times I get really discouraged because the state has been very slow to release opioid money funds. We are getting millions of dollars from that settlement. And if you don't have the funds released or have an idea of when you can get them, it's hard to set up resources. You can't make a plan, you can't hire people. So hopefully if we can get through to the governor and the committee that oversees that and get more of that money, we can hopefully offset more of the cost around harm reduction. We have the police department is very well funded right now. We have to start working harder on the harm reduction side, because without getting people into recovery, we can't beat this crisis. So that's a huge concern. I also have a huge concern. We have so much deferred maintenance. We have a huge issue around vehicles. For example, ambulances and fire trucks that need to be replaced. So we're going to have to figure that out in some way. It's going to be a very tough conversation, and definitely recommend, if you can't watch Board of Finance meetings live, to watch them on the weekend, just to be really up to date with what the discussions are, because it's going to be affecting our property taxes for sure.
Thank you, counselors. We're running a little bit behind, but there is probably time for one more quick question, if anyone has a quick question. All right. No question is a very quick question. All right, well, thank you three for sharing that update and answering questions. And like I mentioned, we'll have the resources in the meeting agenda, or the meeting notes. All right.
Sorry. Hi, I grabbed the mic from Charlie. I'm right here. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to put this as we wrap up with the city councilors, that I completely forgot to say that we have started pouring foundation for the new high school and tech center. So we're almost done with demolition and abatement of the buildings. And Building F, which was the tech center, was the most polluted. They're still working on abatement there, but we're getting really, we're in progress with that. And having said, bond money, it's like, no, yay, bond money is building us a new school. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
That's exciting. More good news. Really ending on the good news. Thank you. All right, so the next meeting, the next item on our agenda is that we will be voting on a representative from Ward 3 to represent Ward 3 on the CDBG Advisory Board. So that is the Community Development Block Grant Group Advisory Board that votes on those grants. So I believe Sam is online. Sam, if you want to take some time to introduce yourself. And just a note before Sam introduces themselves, this is only Ward 3 residents will be eligible to vote on this. So this is one of the items that we talked about earlier that will be separate. So if you live north of North Street, you are not eligible to vote for this. If you live south of North Street, Sam is your prospective rep that you would be voting on. All right, Sam, take it away.
Feel free to ask them now, I guess.
All right, thank you, Sam. Any questions?
Thank you, Sam. We appreciate you stepping up to fill this position in Ward 3, and I think having served on the committee myself, I think you'll get a very broad overview of the various organizations here in our city that kind of come together to help make it a better place. So I'd like to take the opportunity to nominate Sam Powers as the Ward 3 representative to the Community Development Block Grant Committee.
I'll second that.
All right, with that seconded, before voting, any further questions? I know that kind of breaks Robert's rules.
I'm just curious as to what kinds of things you're interested in terms of places that the block grants might go to.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure, to be perfectly frank. I don't have much experience with funding projects like this, and I'm very excited to learn. And I'm also a representative for Ward 3, so I'd love to hear what y'all are passionate about and interested in, for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we go to the vote?
So Sam, feel free to come back to the February meeting of the Wards 2 and 3 NPA and tell us what the projects are that you've been looking at once you see them, okay?
Great. All right. So with the vote, a reminder, if you live south of North Street, you are voting. If you do not live south of North Street, you are not voting. So with that in mind, this is not normally like a closed vote, correct? No, okay. So with that in mind, all those in favor of voting Sam Powers as the Ward 3 rep for CDBG? And all those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing that, congratulations, Sam. We will we will see you at the next NPA meeting to give us an update. All right. All right, so our next item that we have on here is to have a discussion about funding, which is the next item. But before that, we did miss someone in public forum, so I just wanted to take a second to make an announcement real quick.
Thanks. Sorry, I was a little shy at the public forum and wasn't sure what the protocol is, but yeah, I am running for city council, and I am here with literature, so I'll put some out on the table over there just in case anyone is interested. I'm also knocking on doors, so you'll probably receive it that way as well. And yeah, my name is Joe Kane, and I'm running for Ward 3 City Council. So there will be literature out over here. Feel free to grab one.
All right, so now we can move on. So with this next agenda item, I would like to just introduce it quickly, and this will certainly be a discussion base. This is not voting. This is really just a brainstorming session. So all NPAs from each ward gets $2,500 from the city to use as they see fit to better their NPA. So in the past, Jess has done a great job coordinating some grants with our money. So we wanted to open the discussion to you, our NPA members, to share how you'd like to see that money spent. So I do want to note that Wards 2 and Wards 3 have separate funds and have every right and intention to use them either separately or together based on what the funding would go towards. So this could or could not be, right now it's a joint discussion because no decisions are being made, but ultimately it could be used separately between the two wards. So I just wanted to note that really quickly. So with that, I don't know if anyone wants to open the floor. Chris wants to open the floor.
Our current bylaws stipulate that decisions regarding steering committee members, funding, and changes to the bylaws have made at the ward level and have been, I think, as long as I've been involved at the NPA. I was just wondering if someone has the criteria that the city had put out for the grants. I didn't think to print it down, so apologize. Otherwise, that's all I have to say.
Where did all my mics go? I feel like I'm getting my exercise today. Oh my God.
Basically, the funding can be used to further the goals of NPA. So it can be pretty broad. It can be food at your meetings. It can be child entertainment during your meetings. It could be a social event that you want to build community. It could be for lawn signs or posters or other outreach and engagement you want to do. It's pretty broad, so yeah.
Thank you.
Most things.
All right. And you already have a mic. Go ahead.
Yeah. I would like to start the conversation. I'd love to propose a community development NPA advertising initiative and put up sharps containers on locations where there are needles. With Ward NPA, you know, compliments of Ward 2 and 3 NPA, the constant refrain I hear from everyone is there are needles everywhere, but the most obvious solution has never appeared. I think it would be a great initiative for us to use some of our funds. I don't know how to do that. I know we can't pay people, individuals. We can buy objects, so we can't physically provide a wage to somebody. So it would have to be staffed. But I do know there are volunteer opportunities and volunteer bases to access to help clean them out. But it would really show the rest of the city that we identified an issue, current one, and addressed it the best we can with our funds.
Great, thank you. That's an awesome, I take from the clapping, it's a great suggestion. Another suggestion?
If anybody has met me, you know I'm going to talk about the Ramble. So the Ramble is the annual celebration of the creativity and the community of the Old North End by and for Old North Enders. So, and in the past, we have gotten NPA funds. Usually it's half from 2 and half from 3. We would appreciate any amount. We are just beginning to start, we're just starting to look at different grants. We know that we're probably not going to be eligible for something like a CDBG grant on our own. Anyway, yeah, and if anybody has any leads for an arts and culture neighborhood grant opportunity, please let me know. Thank you.
Amy had one.
I'm not sure how to do this, but something that's been bothering me is, as some of you know, is having half of Ward 3 on the other side of the city, and just the idea of discussing block grants when I don't have any idea of what is needed or wanted on that side of the city seems a little crazy, and I would like to put some effort into at least transportation to meetings for people down there and checking on where they're voting, if they can vote in their old poll place or not.
Great, thank you. I saw Jess's hand in the back.
Thanks. I'd love to see money go towards more outreach to get more people to the meeting and to make the meetings more accessible for a broader range of folks, and thinking about ways to use interpretation, and also finding ways to meet the goal and purpose of the NPA meetings without having people needing to come to a 2 or 3 hour meeting here. So thinking about ways to do outreach within the community to get feedback from different groups of folks who aren't coming for whatever reason. That's my 3 cents. Plus, funds to support community dinner are always welcome and appreciated.
All right, any other, these are all really, really great suggestions. Any other suggestions from the audience? And just a note, I do believe when we use the funds, they are voted, the use of them is voted by the NPA as a whole. So this is not the final decision. You won't not hear about it again until we're like, oh, by the way, this is what we're using it on. You will be voting on it once the steering committee will provide some sort of outline, but of course, we're just steering. We are not the final factor, so you will get a chance to vote and decide later.
I want to second the proposal that we contribute to the community dinner, which we all enjoyed before this meeting. And the second thing I wanted to ask is, are we using the same procedure where people that have ideas can fill out the form and say, I would like $500 for this project, and then they all get shared with the group, and the vote will happen, and then you guys will figure out how to divvy the money out? Is that procedure going to be the same this year?
It may or may not be. So we have until June 30th to use the funds. So if we are in support of continuing to use that form, it might be a tighter turnaround since it's January. We can certainly take note of that and have that as consideration when we're voting on, we can allocate X for that form.
I was just trying to think about giving people a heads up on
Yeah.
if they've got the ideas. We're just coming off the top of our head,
Right.
but it would be helpful if people really did have proposals,
Yeah.
that they would have time to get organized and document it and propose how they were going to do it and what the money would be spent for, whatever the timeline is.
Yeah, we can talk about that as a steering committee and share it with the larger group via our email list, if you're part of our email list, social media and stuff. So that way we get out the information and then share it at the next meeting as well.
And you could suggest some of the ideas that have been funded in the past that give people ideas. That would be helpful to people that have not been to a meeting and seen this whole process happen.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay, I think we haven't had a chance to discuss it yet, but I think there would probably be some kind of application process where if the application was, say, originating out of Ward 3, it would be coming out of Ward 3 funds, and whereas if the application was coming out of Ward 2, I would think it would probably come out of the Ward 2 funds, but certainly think that the proposal for Sharps containers is definitely something I think that the folks in Ward 3 would get behind, particularly folks who live in the downtown core. I know that it is an idea that has been brought before the Church Street Marketplace Commission before, so that it seems like there's some support for that. So I think that would be a reasonable use of those funds.
Thank you. Amy?
I just was wondering if it would help to put the announcement of something like that once it passes on the Front Porch Forum, to kind of spread the word around so more people would know about it other than those of us who are at the meetings or on the email list.
Are you saying after
idea.
After the funds have been allocated? Like if we
Or even before, just to let people know this is going on, and if you have ideas.
Oh, yeah. We do typically post announcements on Front Porch Forum for like the NPA meeting, so that can be a highlight when we're voting on it, and as well for gathering ideas, because Front Porch Forum is neighborhood-based, so that makes perfect sense.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, suggestions? Again, these are awesome. I got you.
I just wanted to build on the Sharps comment in the very beginning of it, just maybe allocating funds towards like maybe classes on how to deal with them safely and maybe equipment to pick them up for volunteers to use potentially. Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. That's awesome. I love all this creativity around dealing with health hazard. Any other thoughts? All right. In my corporate job, I say 8 seconds of silence means no more thoughts. So I think that was 8 seconds of silence. Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay, well, thank you so much for the discussion. We have written these down. So what will probably happen next is we'll get together as a steering committee, and we'll have a more formal discussion about this to come in a future NPA meeting. I would guess probably March, but don't quote me on that. And if there's any information that we have sooner, of course, we'll be sure to share it so that way we can solicit feedback as well. All right, so we are doing great on time. So we are in the second of our ward-specific parts of the agenda. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Shelby, do you want to share from online?
Yeah, thanks. I was about to text you guys. It's always there. But I know just based on what you guys are saying about sharps and overdose prevention and that kind of stuff. I had mentioned this last year. Poppy Cafe is really interested. They have this like telephone booth outside their cafe, and they want to make it some type of like supplies, like community supplies resource, so that could be a way to make that happen for the Old North End area.
That's great. Thank you, Shelby. I did see that. They also posted about that on social media, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah, they started working on it. I think, maybe it could be a way to like continue to make that happen.
Right. Awesome. Okay. Last chance. Okay. So with that, we will move along. So as we get into the bylaws discussion, so this will be a Ward 2 specific conversation. So now we're flipping. So if you're north of North Street, this is your conversation. But I do want to point out for our friends in Ward 3, please listen to the conversation. There will likely be amendments to your bylaws. There could potentially be amendments to your bylaws in a future meeting. So you can use the discussion that we as Ward 2 residents are having to kind of guide the discussion that you would have with your Ward 3. So with that, if you look on your table, there are a couple different things. Roxanne did a really great job of highlighting what these changes are. So what I wanted to do first, so we as the steering committee propose these changes. You as the NPA, and we are also part of it, have every right to propose more changes, to say no to these changes, to say more. So we just wanted to provide an outline for discussion, and then we can build off of it, keep it whatever you as the NPA are looking for. So this, there is a stapled form on your table. This is also available digitally through our website on the link tree of the different changes. And Fosca has them on the screen, so I'm going to get out of the way. So our bylaws are available on our website if you would like to look at them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through them. Would anyone in the audience, virtual or sitting in the audience, like me to read them verbatim, or would you prefer to read them off of the screen? Raise your hand if you'd like them verbatim. Raise your hand if you'd like it off of the screen. Okay. Raise your hand if you're a Ward 2 resident. Okay. So I'm going to assume, since no one likes them verbatim, that you will read them off of the screen. I'll provide a summary. So I highlighted in yellow if it's a change, so we're reviewing this. Today's January 11th. That's the first change. The next change, if you're following along in your own copy, is on page 2. So what is highlighted in yellow, the change to this is the change due to the redistricting. So updating the description here of what has changed within the Ward 2 district. And also updating the link to the map, so that way you can always check. And the next one is on, I think, page, well, there's a the, I added a the. The next one is on page 4. So this one is actually quite timely because we have a resolution after this agenda item. But we added some language into the meeting section about introducing resolutions and how the voting process would work. And it also includes like providing warning of the resolution before the meeting. So for instance, with the resolution with this meeting, we did provide it in the emails, and it was available on Civic Clerk ahead of the meeting. I'll pause to give everyone a second to read this. And this is green because it is an addition. This was not in our bylaws previously. Fosca, can you edit? Sorry. The yellow is hard on my eyes as I'm editing. I almost did pink, so I'm glad I didn't do that. That would have been brutal. Okay. Is that better with it highlighted like that? Okay. Oh, thanks, Roxanne. I think it's also, it should be, yeah, right here. Yeah, and it is also, for those of you in the audience, in the physical audience, it is also in front of you. And if you scroll down a little bit, there is also an addition regarding the process to add steering committee members. So there is a part about their eligibility, as well as the process of joining the steering committee. And this is a 2-part, so we'll pause here for a second, and then we'll get to the make an effort to. And if you're in Ward 2 and reading along, if you could just like look up at me when you're done reading so I can, so we can scroll up. Okay, I see some eyes. And just to highlight, this process really allows the interested party in kind of learning about what the steering committee does, and allows the steering committee, the active steering committee, to share what the process is outside of the physical NPA meetings themselves. Again, just look up at me when you are ready. Are there any questions so far while some of you are finishing up reading? Any changes that you've thought of while it's fresh in your mind specifically to these, or anything else in the bylaws? All right, there is one more section. I believe I wrote this all down and I walked away from my notebook. I think it's on page 5, 7. And anything that is not highlighted, again, is already in our existing bylaws, but feel free to suggest changes to that. Okay, so this last part is updates to the inclusion. I don't even want to call it criteria because I think that's too harsh of a word, but adding some of the non-discrimination groups, as well as including the City of Burlington's Declaration of Inclusion directly in the bylaws. So some of this was, if it is not highlighted, it was previously included. If it is highlighted, that would be the addition. All right. And that is the final suggested addition from the steering committee. Are there any other suggestions from those in the audience today? Okay. So with that, if someone would like to make a motion to adopt the changes as they have been outlined, someone from Ward 2 specifically, I think that is the protocol for this. Molly, you make the motion. Do we have a second? Jess, thank you. All those, any questions? Last chance, forever. No, and these can always be, before we vote, I just want to say, like, just because we're editing these, we're doing amendments to these now does not mean we can't do it next month if someone speaks out about it and feels strongly about adding something. These are something that can be edited, so please, know that they can continue to change. Okay, so now Ward 2 residents, those north of North Street, all those in favor of the changes as outlined in the highlighted text to the Ward 2 bylaws. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? I don't know what an abstention would do anyway, but the motion passes. All right, thank you, everyone. And for those of you that are in Ward 3, we'll be sure to kind of announce it in a similar process if there are any changes that will be made to the Ward 3 bylaws. But for now, the Ward 2 has been amended as outlined. All right, and I just want to note, we only have one agenda item, and we are running well ahead of schedule, which is great. So for anyone that had looked at the agenda ahead of today, we did have a change. We are only looking at one resolution today, and for those of you that have this on the table or are looking at the agenda online, there is a note about why we removed the last agenda item, and that was because we had found that it was already in place. So it's great when it is already happening, and there is information Councilor Bergman did share. It was about the MOU with the city and UVM and having enough time. So if there's any, there is still time for feedback, so please, City Council is voting on it on the 29th. So if you have any feedback, please share that with your city councilor, and the meeting will be on January 29th. All right. So now we will be considering a resolution that was drafted by our neighbors in Ward 1, and we even have a Ward 1 resident as we're considering this, which is exciting. So this resolution would be calling on the city to establish conditions under which City Council must consult with NPAs before making decisions. So for those of you that are here, the resolution is on your table. It is also available via the QR code and via our link tree for those of you that are online. And I believe, I want to see, is Chris still in here somewhere? Okay. I just want to make sure he is here because he is the one that proposed the resolution, or proposed considering the resolution today. But this will give, if everyone can take a minute to read over it in the meantime. Do you have... All right, and Fosca is going to share it on the screen. Is there any desire from anyone in the audience, virtual or in person, to read this verbally? Okay, otherwise I will open for discussion, but Chris, do you want to say anything before I open the floor for discussion?
So this resolution originated from the folks over in Ward 1, and I brought it over here in a show of solidarity to support the work that they did. And if I recall correctly, the intent of this resolution came most recently out of the All Wards NPA, where there seems to be some confusion about the relationship between the city and the neighborhood planning assemblies. And I think the intent here is to bring everybody together to the table and to work through some of the issues and to develop some clarity here, but also to assert that when there are big issues before the city council, it would be nice for the councilors and the school commissioners to bring them back here. And unfortunately, I also know that way the agendas are set at those two bodies, sometimes that's not always possible if the meeting falls on a certain day and we've got time constraints. So I think the intent here was really just to try to clarify some of the procedures here, and I think it's pretty straightforward. So without further ado, I'm going to yield the mic.
Jess?
Is it on? It is. Yeah, so I really appreciate the intent of this resolution, and I think clarity in terms of relationship and process is really, really important. I do have a concern about an unintended consequence of relying on feedback from groups that might not be representative of the broader community in city decision making. So for example, how many people are we here in this room today? How many residents of wards 2 and 3 are there? So if there's a requirement that this body provides substantive feedback on city issues, we'd be hard pressed to do our job properly to make sure that we're really representing the communities that are part of the wards. And so I think in spirit this makes a lot of sense. And it would also mean that all of the NPAs would need to do a much better job at inclusion and making sure that everyone's voices are being heard and there are different ways to solicit information within these bodies. So I just wanted to add that additional comment.
Thank you, Jess. Any other feedback, discussion, thoughts? I saw Chris's hand first, and then okay. Now everyone's pointing at each other. Okay, Milo.
Thank you. So as a counselor, I've been really frustrated because a lot of what gets to the public is really controlled, because what gets to the city council is really controlled. And sometimes it's out of the city council's hands. It's the way that the mayor does things. And I don't know if the resolution addresses that, because there's many times where we're given information and then we're like, you've got to vote on it now. And we're the representatives for people who live in the city, but at the same time, some of our comments are not always taken seriously. So it would be helpful to know that there's been community engagement, especially with the example of the UVM MOU. There were, with the counselors, we did have some opportunities to talk in executive sessions and to meet with UVM, but UVM's been largely sheltered from the public. And so if they decide that, no, what you're saying isn't good enough and they haven't heard from the public, and now they're asking the public after they've negotiated it, and they've said, this is all you're gonna get, but go ahead and talk about it. The process is not what it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, do you still want?
I agree with both with what Jessica had said and what Councilor Grant had said about the process. I think that the NPA is a great place to kind of ascertain the diversity of opinions, the array of opinions, and kind of take the pulse of the community. But I don't, as to Jessica's point, I don't know that taking a vote at the NPA, 40 people out of 5,000 something, is really representative. But I do think at the very least it provides a good opportunity for the councilors to get some feedback and idea and at least discuss the breadth of opinions that are, even if it's hard to ascertain what the majority or minority may be. So that I think is kind of why we're trying to have the process here, so that we can have it be a little more meaningful.
Thank you. And just a note, and any of the attendees who maybe know better than I do, I believe we can amend this before we vote on it if there is any strong feeling towards adopting but amending it. So if anyone feels strongly about that, please do share. I didn't see anyone shake their head that that's not possible. So I'm going to assume. Any other feedback, thoughts, considerations?
Should have done this first, but I'd like to move to adopt the resolution to establish conditions under which the City Council must consult with the NPAs before making decisions.
All right. And just before I forget and before we vote on that, is there any feedback from those of you online? And while Fosca is checking, this is both wards, so everyone in Wards 2 and Wards 3 is eligible to vote on that. I know we're giving everyone a little bit of whiplash today with which wards we're talking about.
I'm going to introduce a motion to divide the questions so that the two wards can be voted separately, so that we know which ward voted which way in case there's any question.
Okay. So combining two wards fully, I just ask if everyone is in favor, or okay. Well, I can also do, okay, Ward 2 residents. If all those in Ward 2 who are in favor of adopting this resolution as outlined, please raise your hand if you are in favor. Ward 2 residents, please raise your hand if you are opposed. Motion passes. Ward 3 residents, please raise your hand if you are in favor. Ward 3 residents, please raise your hand if you are opposed. Okay, and the motion passes by majority for both Wards 2 and 3 to adopt this resolution. Thank you, everyone, for discussion and voting. We had, I think this is the most voting we've ever had at a meeting I've attended. All right, that was our last agenda item. So our next meeting will be February 8th. Oh, the raffle, thank you. We had a lot of people stay today, so Jess is going to choose someone from the raffle. I'll hold it for you, you choose. Yeah, has everyone who is in attendance put their name in the raffle? All right. Oh. Anyone else need to put their name in the raffle? You could win free stuff. Who doesn't love free stuff? Okay. Yeah. We do have a question online, so everyone in the room, please do not leave. We're going to do the raffle quickly, and then we are going to take our question online. Travis, is there a Travis in the audience? Yeah? Awesome. On the first try. All right. So I am going to let Shelby close out our meeting with a question. Oh, okay. Well, we're still letting you close out the meeting. Thank you, everyone.